And I think there's a
Right.
question too on the screen I saw. Would you like to
Yes.
address that?
Yeah, sure. We can talk about that. So, Oiling said, living with such people who easily triggered, what should we do? Knowing what triggered them, or try to heal them. Kev, would you like to start?
Well, I guess it is worth when these people are not triggered. It's worth discussing with them actually what is going on. If that person is open to
Yeah,
discussing, have
yeah.
you observed certain things? Do you think certain things need to be attended to? So one thing is to be aware, to help yourself to be aware, and to help the person to be aware before even taking any action.
Right. Thanks, Kev. So I might add a little bit is first, like what Kevin said, discuss about it, bring it to the awareness. We cannot change the thing that we are not aware of. So first, when they're triggered, do not talk about that when they're triggered. Why? Is because their brain just cannot take in. Maybe I'll explain a little bit what's happening when you are reliving or
Right.
re-experiencing trauma. That your brain, like what Kevin said, your executive function, where you can talk, that's where like on the executive level kind of thinking, where you
Higher
can
brain
talk,
function.
higher brain function, where you can talk, you can problem solve, you can prioritize which one is important and which one are not. And when someone is really living the trauma, when he or she is triggered, you don't talk about that, because that part of the brain, higher
It's
function,
not
is not
functioning.
working. It's
Right.
not functioning. So first, if it's a child, you make sure that you calm them down first. If that's adult, it works the same way. You make sure that they're calm. If they do the things that they need to do, or maybe you can support. In children, we call that co-regulation. Make sure that you bring them down to the optimal level of calmness. And then if you know what triggers, maybe if it's for children, you might want to avoid that first and then discuss about that if they can discuss. If they are very young, you can make sure you avoid that and slowly introduce that in a safer mode. So for example, if they're having trauma with cats, maybe, so you don't put the cats in front of the kids' face. Absolutely not. Not recommended. But and that if you would like to share that positive experience with the children, you can guide them, and then try to heal them. I would not recommend that. Me personally, and I think Kevin would agree, is if you guys can work that one out rather than trying to heal them, because sometimes maybe in a spouse or partner relationship, that can also be triggering for both of you.
Right.
So don't be the psychologist, don't be the psychotherapist. Go and seek for help if that is really, really
Excessive or going
excessive.
out of proportion, affecting the relationship fundamentally. I mean, being
Yes.
aware of it, sometimes we really have to collect evidence, like make a record. What exactly, how often we have to do the homework ourselves.
Yes.
And then we
Yes.
can discuss when people are okay. And also, welcome the opportunity of, would you like to, talk to people? We can go together to talk to a mental health practitioner, or we can find another person. Sometimes because of those dynamics that we already have, it's so hard for the couple to talk, and sometimes because of children, it's also hard. Some of the dynamics were frozen by the children. Sometimes people don't communicate and they go for the children and pretend nothing is happening, and that's really when the time we need someone who is from outside, who is more experienced with these issues, to be able to sit down and hear from everyone and let everyone or guide people to look into their issues and maybe resolve some small parts of it.
We only have 10 more minutes left, Kevin. So
Right.
This is just a talk. Sometimes we have 2 hours of lunch, but 1 hour just to talk to each other. That's way too short, isn't it, Gav?
Yeah, we haven't talked for so long, and
I know maybe it's in what 6 months or something. I believe so, right?
not 6 months. Well, yeah, because you were not always around when I was around in Lifespring. So
Yes.
yeah.
So maybe some of ideas, Kev, if now that we raise awareness for those people who can really see it, that they do live or work or having a relationship with people with experiencing trauma.
Mm.
What would be your recommendation if now after hearing this I noticed that maybe I have trauma? Because we talk about complex trauma or developmental trauma as something that people experience on day-to-day basis, maybe. And then through this, even to this coronavirus pandemic, I believe there's a lot of people who are experiencing trauma, is still experiencing trauma, is reliving their previous trauma now here as well. What would be some things you would recommend if they start to be aware that
Possibly I might have trauma.
Yes.
And I will get back to the question of types of
Yes.
behavior triggers. But you know,
Yeah.
when I realize I might have issues, first, again, it's the awareness. I mean, am I able to look in? Am I ready to look into these issues? If someone say, you know, yeah, let's talk about it. Am I ready to look into it? So sometimes I would ask myself, and actually I like writing. Not everyone does, but I do write whatever because I don't like I like the fact that when I write I'm not showing to anyone, so I can write anything, and when I write the flow just goes automatic. I can write, this is what I'm afraid of, why am I afraid of this, I have a lot of thoughts, so I can organize myself a little bit. And secondly, I think we should identify the triggers for ourselves. So if I know I have some trauma, I might want to identify the triggers and avoid, you know, being triggered. You know, there are ways we can avoid. We can sit back and, you know, be chill. And number three, you know, trauma, the nature of trauma is to make you feel no one understands you. You are very isolated because this is just my experience. So to be able to talk to people you trust, not necessarily this time when maybe your spouse or your family members are involved in this reenactment of the trauma, maybe you have to talk to someone not within the family, and those people who you can trust to sort out issues, and of course seek professional help.
All right. Thanks, Kev. I have nothing else to add. I have nothing else to add if it's for our job though. But maybe I do have some things to add if it's for children or maybe some young adults. Definitely it will be the same. I like to I think I make it a habit when I started to be aware. First is always the awareness. That's why I always teach about emotional awareness, because when you know you are reacting more sensitive or anything more than usual, you can always identify that as maybe this is different. So maybe if I'm talking like what I shared before, if I am talking like in a higher tone, or maybe I get irritated easily, I would like to see whether I'm in a PMS mode. Women wear PMS mode, or whether I'm actually emotionally triggered.
Right. And you know, you were talking about trigger, and earlier there was a question about behavior trigger. Yeah, there is. For example, I mean, I have seen cases in which people were abused before. I mean, even guys were abused before when they were young. And you know, trauma has a way. You know, sometimes we forget about that. Some memories were blocked because we put it in somewhere on the brain. And maybe after 20 years, suddenly when you are having sex with someone, and that is when the trauma comes back. Or when people suddenly touch a part of you that was so sensitive at that point, then all the memories just flush back. So there are types of behavior triggers like this. When you were abused in a certain way, when trauma is locked into some part of the body, when suddenly that part of the body is triggered, even the arm, the belly, or the back, then that would be triggers. And actually, another point I want to add, not related to trigger, but to children, is that we're not talking about satisfying the wish of the children, any wish of them. We are talking about not shaming the children, not making them feel like I'm left for myself. I have no way to survive because my parents don't love me. My parents yell at me. My parents shame me in the public and call me names. This is what we don't do so that they don't have trauma. But it doesn't mean that whatever they want a Coke, they want to smoke cigarette, they want to do this and this, you please them such that they don't get rejected. So not shaming children is very different from, satisfying every wish, even those things that are not good for them. Spoiling them.
Yeah. So maybe some of the behavior triggers would be you are avoiding that. So avoidance is one of a very big alarm when you are avoiding that situation. If the questions of behavior triggers, like you wanted to see whether that triggering is that a question? So hopefully, if that's a question, tell me if it's not. At first, that you might have a sudden, even thinking about it, or hearing about it, or smelling about it.
Right.
Maybe when you experience that, and then you started to, maybe for example, you were being beaten, and then just somewhat, maybe you've been beaten by your dad, and then that very moment in time, somehow, some way, your mom is cooking nasi uduk, for example. And every time you smell nasi uduk, and then there's just like all the tingly feelings, or maybe your heart is beating faster, or you're sweating a little bit, that can be also a behavior that shows that you were triggered. And then avoiding that, some procrastination. Kevin also talked about forgetting that. So when you say, oh, we experience that a lot of time in our cases, like, how's your relationship with that? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Can you describe a little bit more by
it's good.
All good.
It's good.
It's just good.
Nothing to say.
Right. Or maybe we say some of our questions like, can you tell us maybe 2 or 3 memories that was really good? They could not pinpoint anything, but it's just good. So that is also like burying the feeling. So it can also be that the society said that you cannot say bad things about your dad. And then the moment that you are in a counseling room, and then we start to talk more about it, you just cannot remember because you are putting it all away. And also having a sort of anxiousness towards multiple things.
Right.
Like, I have to plan things out. If it's not planned, I do not feel safe. So you would like to see whether you are really wanting the plan because there is something that you need to do, or is it because I am not feeling safe and I'm feeling insecure. So for me to make me feel secure, I need everything to be planned out. And when it's not planned out, I get freaked out. Who is that woman? Me. I got freaked out. And like I said, it's not that you're weak. We are an ongoing process. And what happened with us when we were young is not our fault. But it is our responsibility to work on that now, we as an adult. Right, Kevin?
Right. I also feel like people don't need to overdiagnose themselves and say, oh my gosh, I have trauma. But one way to also tell for myself, for my experience, is trauma normally comes up in your dreams, in your nightmare. And I had times when I was dreaming, I was always running. There was always enemy chasing me. So that shows a part. And if this repeats itself, repeats in different circumstances, it shows something. I mean, not that you have to diagnose yourself as I'm traumatized or anything, But you know, you can be aware, you can write down your dreams, you can look at it, what are the emotions involved, and talk to people, talk to professionals when you find a chance. So don't overdiagnose yourself, but sometimes if you see, there are hints of how, you know, the outbursts, the nightmare, and also the you know, lack of trust.
The discomfort.
Generally of everyone. In our therapy, I was going to share, you know, even though when we deal with people who have trauma, and I'm sure as in the children's case, you don't go straight to the trauma. We don't just talk about the trauma. The first thing for everyone dealing with trauma is safety. So it's not like you come and we will ask, what is your trauma? What is happening to you? We don't do that.
No, we don't do that. So like, what is your trauma? Why are you feeling? Why are you not doing this? Because you're no, that's not what we do. Specifically for children, I don't even talk about the trauma. No, I don't even talk about the trauma.
Right.
We play. We play. All we do. That's maybe just a last note. If anyone would feel like they experienced those things, that maybe where should they contact Lifespring is, because these are the last few seconds that I have before I suddenly end.
Right.
So,
you know, there's all the WhatsApp number in the page of Lifespring Konseling, so you can click and you can just WhatsApp. So Lifespring Care and Counseling Center is based in Tanjung Duren, and now it is open for online sessions. So don't worry about having to come over to meet people directly at this time of this virus time. Right now, you can do it online. So this is something that, I mean, if you feel you want to ask more, you can contact the number, and you know, we can decide if really you need further sessions or not.
So just send DM, not to me, to the Lifespring Counseling. If you want to talk more with Kevin, maybe let's see, they will set up those people. You can share a little bit about your case, and then they will definitely happy to help you out. They will schedule any faster sessions in the near future.
Right.
And if you guys have any more questions or topic that you want to talk about, or you want to know more about trauma, both of us are very excited, and we are so into working with people with trauma. We're happy to have been trusted with cases. So I think that's all for today and for tonight. Otherwise, we'll blow everything out to people.
Right.
So thank you, Kevin. Stay safe
Terima
in Hong Kong.
kasih.
Terima
Thank you.
Hati-hati di Hong Kong. Cepat pulang ke Indonesia ya. Pulang. Going home to Indonesia.
Yes,
All
akan
right.
pulang.
Akan pulang.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you again next week with different topics. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.